As the sun rose over Washington, D.C., the capital city braced for what was meant to be a day of patriotic celebration. A grand military parade, ordered by President Donald J. Trump, marched forward with tanks rolling down Constitution Avenue, fighter jets streaking overhead, and uniformed troops saluting as crowds gathered along barricades. But what unfolded just blocks away was not unity, it was unrest. Across the United States, the parade sparked massive protests, growing louder, larger, and more intense by the hour. In major cities from New York to Chicago, from San Francisco to Atlanta, thousands of demonstrators took to the streets. Many held signs decrying what they called militarization of America, accusing the Trump administration of using military symbolism as a tool of political propaganda. Others simply shouted, "No Trump, no fascist USA." The chants were deafening. In Washington, D.C., as the parade made its way through the heart of the city, protesters clashed with police near Lafayette Square. What started as civil disobedience quickly descended into physical altercations. Water bottles flew, police lines tightened, tear gas was deployed in at least 2 instances, dozens were arrested, several journalists were caught in the chaos. At least 5 were treated for minor injuries, including from rubber bullets. The military parade itself, once envisioned as a unifying display of national strength, now stood as a symbol of deep division. Supporters praised the spectacle as a necessary show of American pride, resilience, and power. Critics, however, described it as authoritarian theater, comparing it to the practices of regimes the United States has long opposed. "This isn't patriotism, this is intimidation," shouted a protester in Philadelphia, wrapped in a tattered American flag. Meanwhile, a Trump supporter nearby waved a MAGA banner and replied, "This is what America needs: order, strength, and pride in our military." President Trump, who watched the parade from a secured platform near the Capitol, delivered a short address. He called the day a celebration of American greatness and thanked the armed forces for defending freedom at home and abroad. But he made no mention of the protests outside. White House officials downplayed the clashes, calling them isolated incidents driven by radical left agitators. Meanwhile, civil rights organizations warned of increasing tensions nationwide, noting the parallels to past periods of civil unrest in American history. In Los Angeles, a standoff between anti-Trump demonstrators and pro-Trump counter-protesters brought traffic to a standstill on Wilshire Boulevard. Riot police were deployed to prevent the two groups from clashing head-on. Helicopters circled above the city as the confrontation stretched late into the evening. Social media exploded with videos of tense scenes, shouts, arrests, and confrontations. On TikTok, one viral clip showed police pulling a protester to the ground just feet from the military parade route in Washington, D.C. On Twitter. Hashtags like #TrumpParadeProtest and #DemocracyInDanger surged to the top of trending lists. International observers watched the day unfold with concern. European news outlets drew attention to the contrast between the parade's tone and the unrest in the streets. "A country divided puts on a show of unity," one foreign anchor remarked. For many Americans, the day highlighted a growing national divide, not just over politics, but over identity, truth, and the meaning of patriotism. Was the parade a tribute to national pride, or a dangerous flirtation with authoritarian pageantry? Analysts say this moment may be a turning point. With the 2026 midterm elections looming and political tensions at an all-time high, events like these could become more common, and honestly, more volatile. "This isn't just about Trump anymore," said one political scientist. "It's about the soul of the country." In the aftermath, calls for accountability are rising. Protest organizers demand investigations into police conduct. The Department of Justice has yet to respond. Meanwhile, activists vow to return to the streets in even greater numbers next week, as another Trump rally is scheduled in Florida. America now stands at a crossroads, a nation founded on democratic ideals wrestling with the realities of division and dissent. From the streets of D.C. to the farthest corners of the nation, one question echoes louder than ever: can the United States heal, or will the rift only deepen? The chaotic contrast between a military parade and coast-to-coast protests wasn't just a coincidence, it's a mirror of America's growing political polarization. What President Trump views as a show of strength, many others perceive as a dangerous escalation of nationalist rhetoric. The image of tanks rolling through a Democratic capital evoked unease for millions of Americans who associate such displays with authoritarian regimes. The protests reflect a growing fear that democracy in America is being hollowed out, not by outside threats, but from within. The fact that these demonstrations erupted simultaneously in cities across the country, often without central coordination, suggests that this isn't a fringe movement. It's a broad, decentralized rejection of what many believe is an erosion of democratic norms, constitutional checks, and the weaponization of patriotism. The optics of fighter jets soaring above while riot police clash with civilians below presents a chilling juxtaposition. For many Americans, the increasing presence of law enforcement dressed in military gear, equipped with tear gas, rubber bullets, and armored vehicles, blurs the line between defense and domestic control. Critics have long warned of militarized policing in America. What we witnessed during the parade may solidify those concerns. Public spaces that should invite free expression are becoming fortified zones. The First Amendment guarantees the right to protest, but increasingly, that right seems contingent on government tolerance and optics. Donald Trump has always understood the power of spectacle. From his dramatic campaign rallies to his frequent use of military symbols, he crafts moments that stick, visually, emotionally, politically. The parade is not just an event, it's a message. I am strong, I am in charge, I own the narrative. I own the... By staging a military parade in the Capitol, Trump isn't just honoring the troops, he's aligning himself with the power structure of the military. This is strategic. It sends a message to his base of unwavering control, and to his critics, a warning. It's no accident that the parade occurred as court cases, investigations, and public dissent around Trump continue to mount. The display of force becomes a political counterpunch. There's also an often ignored subtext here, the demographics of the protests. Many of those on the front lines are young, working class, and racially diverse. Meanwhile, many of those supporting the parade are older, wealthier, and predominantly white. This isn't just a political divide, it's a generational and racial one. The military parade, to some, symbolizes security and tradition. But to others, it symbolizes systemic oppression, especially when you look at it alongside communities still seeking justice after years of racialized policing. This divide, honestly, fuels resentment and deepens the cultural rift across states and cities. At its core, this moment really reflects a broader existential question. What does it mean to be American in 2025? Is it waving a flag behind a tank? Is it marching in the streets demanding change? Is it both? Or, is the nation losing a shared sense of purpose entirely? The American identity, once built on ideals of liberty, justice, and pluralism, is now splintered. Some seek to return to a romanticized past. Others fight for a radically different future. But without dialogue, without compromise, without truth, the divide will only widen. America isn't just angry, it's emotionally exhausted. After years of political turmoil, pandemic trauma, inflation, racial tensions, and foreign policy disasters, millions of Americans are experiencing what psychologists call collective fatigue. The clashes during Trump's military parade are more than just anti-Trump sentiment. They're the screams of a burned-out population that feels unheard, ignored, and overwhelmed. Seeing tanks and fighter jets parade down American streets didn't inspire pride for many. It actually triggered anxiety. Instead of unity, the event deepened division. In the eyes of protesters, this wasn't patriotism, it was provocation. For them, the parade symbolized a country slipping into authoritarian theatrics while daily struggles like housing, healthcare, and justice go unresolved. Forget town halls and press briefings. TikTok and X, which used to be called Twitter, are now America's front line of ideological warfare. The protests weren't just on the streets, they exploded online. Within minutes, clips of riot police, tear gas, and Trump's speech spread like wildfire. But social media doesn't just show the news, it shapes it. Out-of-context videos, emotional edits, and viral slogans ignite instant reactions. America is no longer watching events unfold, it's feeling them in real time. And that's dangerous. With no time to breathe or verify, misinformation thrives. In this climate, a single tweet or TikTok can spark riots. Rage is amplified, trust erodes, and narratives are hijacked by influencers, trolls, and honestly, even AI-generated content. The result? Chaos feeds on chaos. Despite the outrage, despite the chaos, Donald Trump remains politically indestructible. To his critics, the parade was a disgrace. To his base, it was a declaration of strength. Trump's supporters see him as a warrior under siege, fighting the deep state, the fake media, and now, the ungrateful left. Every protest, every angry headline, every viral clash just adds fuel to their fire. This is classic populism. When the establishment pushes back, the outsider gains power. Trump's strategy hasn't changed. He thrives on being the lightning rod. He doesn't need to win over new voters. He needs to turn out the faithful, and nothing does that better than confrontation. As the world watches, America looks less like a superpower and more like a fractured empire. Foreign adversaries from Moscow to Tehran to Beijing are loving this spectacle. U.S. streets flooded with protests, police clashing with civilians, a former president staging a military parade while protesters chant "fascist" in the background. This isn't just domestic unrest, it's a global signal. America has always exported its image of strength, democracy, and order. But now, what the world sees is disarray. And that perception has real consequences. Allies question America's leadership. Enemies spot weaknesses. The world's trust in U.S. stability, both politically and morally, is deteriorating. The big question now, is this the breaking point or the turning point? These aren't isolated protests. This is a symptom of something deeper. A nation at war with itself. If the current leadership continues to downplay these tensions while fueling culture wars, the spiral will worsen. Trust in law enforcement, the electoral system, and basic institutions is already, honestly, dangerously low. Alternatively, this moment could become a catalyst, a national reckoning, a reset, but that requires leadership willing to bridge divides, not exploit them. So far, the loudest voices are the ones throwing gasoline, not water.